This is Life After Sports podcast with your host, Kevin Johnson. The theme tonight, we're actually starting off our Women in Sports series. And I'm so glad and honored to have you as our first guest on the Women in Sports series.
I
No
appreciate
other
it.
than LaVonne Idlette. She is an Olympian, also impact investor and serial entrepreneur. And I'm glad to have you on our episode 19. As you can see, our episodes they're building up from the last time we spoke and had lunch. And I'm just glad to have you on here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I was really inspired by all the stuff that you were doing, and like I've watched a few episodes, knew a few of the people, and was like, okay, I really. So I'm humbled and honored to be a guest. So.
No, well, I appreciate it, and like I said, I mean, the reason last week I did an episode on introducing myself, and I was just kind of giving a little bit. Normally, people that have a podcast, they normally do the intro of themselves or why they started a podcast at the beginning. And with anything, I jump right into it, and so the structure may have been a little different, but the body of work and the people that I've had the chance to interview, I think it has been tremendous.
Definitely.
So with that being all said, I'm just going to jump right in. I'm getting right into the nitty gritty tonight, if that's okay with you.
All right.
All right. So first question, and before we even get to the questions, with what's going on in the world right now, and I think you've seen it in regards to the different teams, NBA, WNBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, soccer, in regards to people protesting or athletes protesting in regards to not playing for a particular game or postponing games so that they can be able to bring awareness in regards to what's going on in our country today. How do you feel about that, especially being a professional athlete?
I think that I really applaud them for being so connected to what's going on, because it's very easy for us to be like, it ain't got nothing to do with me.
Do with me.
And I'm really not affected. But I really applaud them for taking a stand and using their platform and their voice to bring awareness, because obviously, even though we don't want to be role models or like somebody that has an opinion about politics in general, I think that people are still always looking. So having a positive stance is definitely great.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, a lot of people I know they're asking, okay, with these players that are taking a stance, what is the next stage? What does it look like? I know the NBA, they had a couple meetings the last 2 days in regards to what is it as players, what is it that you guys are looking for with this step moving forward? And I think it's great. Like the movement is great, but I also think having a strategic plan in place is
Right.
even it takes it to a whole nother level. If you can agree with me.
I completely agree. Strategic planning in general, and like having a what do we actually want from the movements that we make is the most pivotal point of actually moving things forward.
Yeah, and I know, and just looking at the Bleacher Report that I saw on Instagram today, they talked about the NBA and the NBA Players Association. They're going to resume play, but the three things or three things that they had asked or requests, from the league itself and the owners. One, can they establish a social justice coalition featuring reps from players, coaches, and governors, which I think that's really, really well. The next one is to convert team arenas into voting locations for 2020 general election.
That's awesome. I had a friend of mine who works in like basically social impact with athletes, and he had been working on getting the Heat to do that for a little while. So I hope that all works out.
Yeah.
Because of social distancing, we definitely need more places where people can go and like
In a bigger capacity.
Exactly.
Bigger venue. Yeah, and I think, and the last one was to create advertising spots in the playoff games that promote civic engagement in local, national elections. So when you really think about it, 2 out of the 3 is talking about elections, like being
Mhm.
able to help out with the elections so that people's voice can be heard. And I think it's so important for those who are listening. If you haven't voted, please go out and vote. Please vote again in November. It's needed.
Right.
In regards to whoever you're voting for, just vote. I think that's just necessary.
Especially because if you're here in Florida, we can vote early, we can vote by mail. Basically, they're like, just vote. So,
Yeah. So, just the topic itself and the players taking a stance, I think it's tremendously, I think it's great, especially when you look at history. And I'm only saying this because of my doctoral program. When you look at history in regards to athletes using their stance, using their platform to take a stance on social activism, when it's prevalent and it relates to what's going on today, you hear it a lot. And then 2, 3 months or 2, 3 years or 10 years, you don't hear about it anymore.
right.
And I just like the what's going on from with the 2016 when Colin Kaepernick took a knee and the message, and then what's going on now. I just think now it's so prevalent, not only for the voting, but us strategically having a plan moving forward on how can we be able to change some laws and change some things in place that can be able to help this country be in a better place.
Definitely.
Yeah. So with all the politics, let's take all that out. Let's get right to you right now. So so let's talk about where you were born. Where do where you grew up, where you were raised. I know sometimes where you're born and raised is two totally different places. But give us a
Hmm.
little bit for those who don't know who you are. Tell us, give us a little spill about yourself.
Okay, so I was born in Hampton, Virginia. I was raised in Hampton, Virginia. I went to Hampton University. So
Okay, okay.
I am born and bred 757. Um, and it was a great place to grow up because it's a military town, so it's kind of Pleasantville-ish. Like pretty much everybody makes the same money. Everybody pretty much does the same kind of jobs. It is um, middle class utopia, more or less. Like I would have to say, like almost everybody I know graduated, went to college or the military. It's very that.
Yeah. Okay, okay. And so you were born and raised there. You went to college there and everything.
Yes, Bethel High
Okay.
School, best track team in the country.
Oh wow. Oh wow. She's out here. She's giving shout outs. She let people know best track team in the country.
That's
Okay.
right.
You could tell you're definitely a professional athlete, boy. It's always it's just something that's in the heart that just
That's
the
right.
bragging rights. So talk about when did you fall in love with sports and when did you start, when did you know that route? Every player or every professional athlete at some time they know as a kid, this is something that I'm really heavy on. So when was your first, when you fell in love with sports?
So I played sports my entire life, more or less, and I was just like always an active kid outside. I started off in gymnastics and then played basketball and played tennis. And I didn't actually start running track until high school, but I ran like in the street and stuff. So I knew I was fast. I actually thought I was way faster than I was in like real life because I could beat everybody in my neighborhood. So
Okay, okay.
um, I don't think I took sports seriously. It was just like a natural thing.
Yeah,
Um, in high school, I started getting like whooped by some of my teammates, so that kind of made me be more disciplined about it.
yeah.
But I didn't take it really seriously until like my last 2 years of high school.
Of high school.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Now as a child, what was your dreams and aspirations growing up as an adolescent?
So my whole life, I wanted to be a dermatologist, which like going into college and everything. So I turned down some schools who said that athletes couldn't be pre-med majors. Like I was going to be a dermatologist. And so after about 3 semesters of college, I changed my major. Fast forward, I changed my major 7 times, and my degree is actually in finance. But
Wow.
um, my whole life, I wanted to be a dermatologist.
Wow, wow. So what college did you attend?
Hmm?
What college did you attend?
I went to Hampton
Oh, you
University,
said it already. You
the
went to Hampton.
home by the
So
sea, the best
HBCU.
HBCU in the land.
Okay. So what other schools, if you could tell me, what other schools were recruiting you? Were heavily recruiting for not only academic but for sports as well?
Yeah, so I went and visited Virginia Tech, University of Virginia, Florida, Texas Tech, Penn State. I actually really wanted to go to Penn State, but they signed too many people in the early signing period, and so it was already March, and they just didn't have enough money to give me a full ride. So they kind of tried to give me the song and dance, like take a partial, use Pell Grant, which I didn't qualify for, which you wouldn't know when you're in 12th grade anyway.
Yeah.
So luckily it worked out, and I went where I got a full scholarship. But
so talk about your experience at Hampton. You know, like talk about it.
Hampton track is very much like a family hood. So I got there, I was embraced. My head coach, we were actually his first recruiting class. So we came in like we're the chosen ones, and we were very close knit. It was 7 of us, and we were really highly recruited. Good athletes coming out of high school, especially considering like we all came to an HBCU. And like school itself, lit. Like you can go to the student center from 12 to 2. There's a party in there. We had cookouts on the lawn. It was a phenomenal experience, especially from the perspective of I grew up kind of in Pleasantville, but then the majority of our students are middle-class Black families, and like, so to see that in abundance was like something that I had never really seen. Like, oh, your parents are doctors, oh, your parents are accountants, oh, okay.
Wow.
And so Benzes, and it was just a different idea of what Black America is.
Yeah.
And so that was good. I had a lot of really supportive professors. Actually, the reason that I became a lawyer, got an MBA, any of that stuff, is because I had one professor when I was in the business school. I took business law. He taught a Socratic method, and I got a good score when he usually like curbs it. He's like, you should go to law school. And I'm at this point, I still want to be a doctor. I just kept changing my major because I was making my dad happy. My dad was all like, don't be a doctor, go into business. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, bro, you don't know.
But he knew his daughter. He was like, no, don't do that.
Yes. And so luckily I listened to that advice. And then I had another professor tell me that I should do the dual program, MBA, JD. And I actually ended up breaking off from that program and going to another school, but I still got them both, so it worked out.
So where did you, talking about your experience, and the crazy thing is I think a lot of parents who have, and it doesn't matter because I'm pretty sure at HBCUs you have African Americans, you have people from different nationalities, different countries, different race. I don't think in regards to, even when I was in high school, just understanding HBCU schools, I didn't have that knowledge because my parents came from another country. So I'm first generation here in the United States from my parents. And so not understanding it, I think if I had to do it over again, I definitely would have went to HBCU, just because that experience, I hear all my friends who went there, the experience was just incredible, like a one big family type of atmosphere. And so, with that being said, where did you do your law school? You said you did a law school, a joint degree, MBA and a JD.
Yes. So I went to law school at FAMU
Okay.
after I went to business school.
Okay.
But FAMU is in Tallahassee, but the law school is in Orlando. So it worked out perfectly because at the time I was training outside of Orlando, like 25 minutes outside of Orlando. So I got to go there with, of course, HBCUs end up with other HBCU alumni. So it's a bunch of Hampton alums that I knew. And so it was a very family atmosphere there too. It's not quite as black as a black school when you're in professional school, but
totally different.
Oh my goodness. I'm expecting to like, oh, it's gonna be nothing but black people here. And it was like it was mixed and mixed aged. And I thought it was a great experience though. Most of our professors were like Ivy League trained, so it was really good.
That's what's up. That is what's up. So let's talk about this. Just give you the format. You know, we're talking about, I call it PIS, pre-career, in-career, and then we're going to talk about post-career. PIP. It's PIP. Sorry.
Oh, I was like, PIS? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Pre, in, and post.
Okay.
So talking about that, let's talk about your career. You know, talk about your journey and in competition in your professional career.
Oh my goodness. So if anybody knows anything about track and field, you know that it's like not a thing for real. So it really is and it isn't. So in order to be successful, you have to travel. You have to travel well because most of our races are in Europe, Asia, the Caribbean, that sort of thing. And so I started off in what I would consider to be like the Chitlin circuit. So I would go to Europe for like months at a time with a bag, couple bags. Started off as a bunch of bags, then it ended up just being a carry-on because you learned that you got to pack light when you got to run for trains and whatnot. So it was a learning experience. I traveled a lot by myself. I'm blessed and covered. That's why I didn't get taken. But I was literally always just by myself, like racing in small little cities and just trying to get a better time so that I could go to better races. So that was the first 4 years of my career. No, like first 3.5 years of my career where I was just going overseas, basing in Italy. So I learned a lot, saw a lot. That part was great. I'm actually really spoiled now, so I don't like to pay for travel.
At least you're being honest. At least you're being honest with it.
Like the things that you don't realize when you're an athlete, like now I don't want to pay for sneakers. I don't want to pay for travel. I don't want to pay for supplements. Like, I don't pay for stuff. Like what? And but then once I started running a little faster, got a better agent, then you fly business class and you just go to your one race and you come home. It was like,
it was different.
Oh, this is the big leagues now, okay. And it was fun, but it was a humbling experience as well because those were the times where you have to truly be a professional. So in smaller meets, you really don't have to run super fast to win these races on a normal basis. But when you go to Diamond League races and bigger Golden League World Challenge, everybody's fast. It's really not that much money on the line. So they are trying to kill you. And so you have to be perfect every race. And if that race is every 3 days, it is what it is. You better have gotten your sleep. You better have done all the things that's required for you to be able to execute that perfect race. So I learned to be a pro
real quick
along the way.
Yeah. Well, my other question, just for those who don't know, who are also logging in regards to track and field, what competition did you participate in?
So I've been to basically every kind of track meet you can think of, but the bigger ones being, I was in the 2012 Olympics, and I went to 5 world championships between 2009 and 2015, and then that's indoor and outdoor, and then I was on the Continental Cup team in 2014. So, and then we got Pan Am games and CAC games, and it's just the most unorganized sport in history. It's like organized chaos.
Yeah, only because you can go to a match or a meet and maybe not come in last, but that wasn't a qualifying meet. So like understanding what is qualifying, what is not. Like for me, like understanding that.
So there is not really a determination between qualifying and not qualifying per se.
Okay.
I can literally run at any race and run the qualifying standard and be qualified to go to the Olympics. There's a window of time that you have to do it, and there are other parameters, like you can't have more than 0.2 meters per second behind your back, or the race doesn't count. Okay. By the way, that's not helpful in the hurdles anyways. It just makes it scary because the hurdles start coming up really fast.
Man, so talking about your career, what was the most remarkable accomplishment that you had during your career that you can remember?
So the most proud moment I had was when I won Ibero Championships, which was like in 2014, because that was the meet that allowed me to qualify to be on the team for Continental Cup. So each continent only brings 2 people. So I got to represent the Americas with Dawn Harper. It was like, and we went to Morocco. It was so much fun. And my teammate from high school and college was my roommate, Francina McCoy, shout out. So yes.
That's a crazy experience right there, that she was your roommate in college and you was on the same, both of you were going in the same competition.
She was my teammate in high school and college. So we've been in this thing a long time.
Yeah. So talk about that. How do you feel about representing the Dominican Republic on the biggest stage?
It was amazing because beyond like I've never actually had aspirations to be famous or anything like that, but like just having people reach out to you that are like the prime minister, the president, some reporter that you've never, like, I don't know any of these people, but you know, they're reaching out to you and they know who you are and just saying like, we're with you, congratulations, or like good luck. It was very big, especially when I got injured in 2016. Having so many people reaching out and saying like, we got your back no matter what, like we hope you get better and all that stuff.
So how did it determine, and you're informing me just as much as you're informing the people that are watching, that so who's Dominican in your family? Who's from DR?
My mom.
Your mom. Okay. I had to ask that because if people are listening, they're like, well, she mentioned that she grew up in
it's a military town. That's what you get. We had the most like melting pot stuff going on in a time where like Virginia ain't even that diverse now, to be honest. But you know, in the particular area where you have military, you have a little bit of everything, a little
little melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about challenges, what was the biggest challenge in your professional career?
So I would say the biggest challenge was finding the balance of, so mind you, I was in graduate school and law school during this whole time.
That's crazy. First of all, that's crazy. That's for people who are listening, that's unheard of. That's unheard of. That's just unheard of. That's really unheard of. I don't know how you was able to do it.
So we had 1L orientation for law school in August, and then I left after orientation and went to Korea for World Championships for 2 weeks. And my teachers all thought I was out of my mind. They were like, you're gonna flunk out, blah blah blah, you don't take this seriously enough. And so I used that kind of stuff and put a battery in my back to prove them wrong and say like, you can't limit me with your limiting thoughts. And but after my 1L year, then there's the Olympics. So it's like staying focused on 2 things that are very serious at the same time was hard, but like that's probably the most challenging thing I've ever done. But it made me realize that like you can literally do anything if you just don't give yourself the option to quit. Like, this is my life. That's how I took it. Like, this is my life. I go to practice, I go to class, I get massages. This is my life.
Based on what you're telling me, like you were always thinking about not only being a professional Olympian and doing it, but also you was thinking about life after sports as well at the same time, or thinking about what that career would be next.
Right. So one thing we got to go back and reiterate. Unless you're like #1 in the world, track is not it's not your life. You will not end your life with track money. Unless like rank #1, you probably do okay. Do really well if you're Usain Bolt. But in general, I was always a business savvy kind of person. Like I was the kid selling stuff in school growing up. But I also kind of never looked at myself as an athlete. Like I was like, I'm more like a nerd who happens to be faster than most people.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, you put it like that. It means you were always thinking outside the box because, and when you said about your professors talking about, look, you can't do both. You're gonna fail. You were like, absolutely not. I'm not gonna fail, and I'm gonna prove you wrong. And so it looks like your life was always about proving people wrong.
Exactly. And then so when I was an undergrad, I had a bunch of professors do the whole like, wow, you did the homework. Oh, you know the answer. Like, ma'am, stop being childish.
You like, I do read my stuff. I'm an athlete, but I'm a student first.
I came here to get a degree. I came here to learn things. So that is what it was about.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your post-career. And I know you told me earlier when we were talking about most of the people that I'm interviewing say former this, former that. You're like, Kevin, do not put no former. When you're an Olympian, you're an Olympian.
Forever.
So thank you for correcting me on that. Absolutely. So let's discuss your profession as an impact investor. And can you define that so that people that are viewers that are watching, they can understand defining what is an impact investor in layman terms?
So basically what that means is that you count other metrics for success besides returns. So that would be like the impact that you have on the community or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So for me, my impact is on like affordable housing and how that impacts the community. And we have a nonprofit as well that like that helps our tenants with things such as voter registration or restoration, health and wellness, just a myriad of services that they may need just because tutoring, little things like, but it's all around being able to have metrics that show that you are doing something positive as well as making money.
Gotcha. And so when did you get into this?
Basically, I got forced. So
okay.
My dad is a developer and he has been in real estate since like the mid-90s. And so I always had to work in his office in the summer, unhappily. So I ended up knowing way more about real estate than I really thought I did. And then like given the opportunity to like do some stuff with him made me say, okay, well, I like this. I like some things about what he was doing and some things I didn't. So I don't like development. It takes too long. So
you like the other part.
I like being able to go and find distressed properties and that have low-income tenants and make it better, make it high quality. That's kind of where my passion is because most people get into affordable housing because of tax credits, which are very good. Like you can do really well just off how you raise money with those projects, but that also means that you get a lot of capitalists who don't care about the community. So that's AKA a slumlord. And
yes, it is.
You will see buildings where they're making great profit and it's just holes in the floor, roaches all around, who knows? And they're kind of like, they don't care. And I'm like, what do you mean they don't care?
Yeah.
But it's because if you're not from a community or you have no connection to it whatsoever, it's really hard for you to understand. And so you're like, they shoot each other. that's their normal, instead of being like, how do we fix this?
How do we fix this?
Yeah.
Which is what the country is right now. How do we fix this?
Right. And it's mostly about vision and outlook. People do things out of desperation, or when they're frustrated and when they feel like they can't, they don't have anybody listening or can feel control to change things in their own life. So then they're like, this is me acting out. Maybe this will make you listen.
Wow.
And that's in all facets of like crime. Like, people don't actually want to, I don't know, rob stores, but if there are no viable jobs and there's
That's what
no
they're gonna do.
way for you to feed your family, it's get it how you live. And that's kind of how, and then that becomes normalized. Like, what?
Yeah.
We robbed them, so.
Yeah, that's why I hope this pandemic is over. It will be over pretty soon, so we don't have to get into that.
Exactly.
Being normalized. Talk about you gave us a little bit about your passion, or what your dad saw in you, what you didn't see earlier in your career. But talk about being a serial entrepreneur, and what does that mean to you?
So I have had the pleasure and misfortune of like just wanting to own businesses all my life, like starting little things or whatever the case may be. And so over the course of my adult life, I have owned a bunch of different random businesses too. So like a spa, which is not that random because my mom used to own a salon, but that was like a big blessing in disguise. Yeah, I don't trust people as much anymore. I dot I's and cross T's, you know. But pretty much it just means that you love business. And so any business, you kind of learn to figure out how it works and make it make money.
Yeah. Which, out of all your businesses, which one is the favorite? I know there's always one. I know there got to be one or two that you're like, I really like this.
So my favorite by far is like doing advisory work with athletes and like helping them see that how their money can work for them, and getting them to that light bulb that says, wait a minute, I know how to make money doing something else. And it kind of freeing them from the, well, I have to. And when you get out of I have to, then you do it because you want to, and you get a different outcome from that.
Yeah. Do you think that with that type of being able to help athletes, what is the major thing that athletes are missing in regards to that component? Is the education on how their money could work for them?
Yeah, I think it's partially education. Just like, you don't know what you don't know. So like, there's so many ways to make money. There's so many things to invest in. They're being thrown 1,000 things every day. Deals of a lifetime, said the person who sent it. But having a little bit deeper knowledge of it so that you can spot BS real fast is what's most important to me. So like, I don't necessarily think that everybody should be an active investor because it's a lot of work. But if you're deciding to invest with others, you need to know how to like, that don't make no sense. That ain't adding up. So it's not like this or that is better, because what you're really investing in is like people. And some people are scammy and some people are not. Some people know what they're doing and some people don't. It's kind of like that. And so being able to discern that comes down to like knowing just a little bit more.
Yeah. And then that's where they have to hire the expert like yourself, so that you could be able to help them so they could make the better decisions and not just take what they're being given.
I used to call myself, I'm just a buffer. I'm here to listen and say,
that don't sound right.
That don't sound right.
Oh man. Well, with that being said, what are some new things that you've learned about yourself during this during your career of post-career? What are some new things that you know that you've probably took it from the sports realm that you use in your everyday business life that you do now with your businesses?
What I've learned about myself, which I kind of knew, was that I'm very disciplined, and like you gain that by being serious in sports in general. You know, you gotta practice every day. You have to go to the weight room. You have to eat a certain way, whatever the case. You become very disciplined, and so in your business life, I initially could be slack because I was like not looking at it in the same way, giving myself way too much flexibility to like put things off or whatever the case may be. And so being able to like click that switch on and say, why you keep giving yourself so many outs?
Yeah.
Get it done.
Get it
That's
done.
it. That's it. And if somebody tells you no, find the yes. That's all I'm ever.
Oh man. So look, my other question is to ask you, in this second, I call it the second phase of life. And I say that because the motto for our podcast is when one career ends, a whole new set of opportunities begin. And so that motto came out of not only from a person being a professional athlete and you're playing, you retire, or you got cut from a team, you got traded, or in a blink of an eye, you had an injury that has forced you to retire. And so with that being said, what second phase do you think that you're on in regards to the earlier career you were in with sports? This phase is a different phase, and then you may be foreseeing something else in your, if you're granted to see that third phase of life.
Yes, my third phase in life is gonna be, I don't know, I'm probably just gonna go around hugging people because I just feel like people have not had enough hugs in their childhood. So that's what I'm gonna do. Once I get to my goal number, it's all about going out and showing love. But this phase, I would say, I'm like, I'm happy where I am, which is kind of like in the middle of it. Yeah. Like I'm not in the beginning, but I don't foresee an end so much of what I'm doing right now. I really enjoy it, and I still have a lot of room to build. So yeah, it's kind of how it is.
That's what's up. That's what's up. What advice would you give that you would like to give or share to professional athletes who are uncertain of this journey and what's expected? And when I say journey, I'm talking about the journey of playing and not knowing when it's going to come to an end, mm-hmm. And the unforeseen, like just not knowing what the future may hold. You know, what advice would you be able to give a professional athlete for those that are listening?
Give yourself some grace, meaning you don't have to be perfect. You get to try. You get to be a novice again. You have been perfect at something, but only because you practiced it for a long time. So give yourself some grace in any new thing that you're getting into. The other thing being, just take some time to figure it out. Like, try a whole bunch of different stuff. Because what you think you want to do, 9 times out of 10, once you're in it, you're gonna be like, oh, this is the worst. Like, this looks great on Instagram, but
this looks great on Instagram, but the work that had to go behind it is not good in person, and I don't like it. Oh my
gosh! I told myself, because I saw somebody, they were buying cars and renting them out on Turo, and I'm like, I'm gonna do that. That looks fun. Not doing it.
Look, no, and I respect that. I had a couple of professional athletes that I've interviewed on here, and a lot of them kind of was saying, man, I wish I was educated while I was playing so that I could be able to, if it was buying houses, buying property, or just moving my money into a different portfolio and understanding what I was doing. A lot of them were like, I wish I did that. A lot of them didn't do anything with it and just held it till they were able to come to a point where they could understand how that money works and how they could be able to help put not only themselves but their family in a better situation where people are not out with their hands. Let me get this, let me get that. But you're actually setting up a legacy so that they can actually understand what the work that goes into whatever they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's another part of grace. Like, you can't help what you haven't been taught yet, or what that nobody around you knew things. Yeah. Let it go and get to reading and watching podcasts and listening to things. Yeah. So, like, the biggest difference an advantage that we have now, which I tell everybody, y'all better be thinking Sergey Brin, because when I was in elementary school, we thought the encyclopedia was information. And now we're literally living in an information age where you can look up and find anything you want to know. And from a simple, how do you do this?
Siri.
Thank you. And you may not get everything you need, but it's going to give you a starting place to dig deeper.
Yeah. And so this is a new thing that I'm starting on this Women in Sports series. So every person that comes on here, I'm going to ask them 3 women that you would like to nominate to tell their stories on this Women in Sports series. And the reason I came up with the women, before you answer, the reason I came up with the Women in Sports series, at the beginning of my podcast, I'm interviewing all guys. So I had a lot of women. But Kevin, we're listening, but we would like to see an image of ourselves. We out there. And so I said, you know what? Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I'll take a back seat. And I came up, took some time. I thought about it. And I said, Women in Sports series, because with what's going on, not only with today, but there's so much powerful women out there that are doing a lot of great things that is in the sports industry, outside of sports, that are doing some other great things as investors and like yourself, doing great things in other industries that we don't really highlight and talk about. So I want to highlight not only you, but I want to highlight other women that you would like to nominate so that I can be able to have the opportunity to interview them.
Anybody that works in sports? Or anybody that's played sports?
Anybody that's played professional, and even if they didn't play professional, but they work in a professional arena with athletes or in a sports team or anything like that, you nominate them, and you can help me, but I'm gonna reach out to them and see if they'd be open to it. So
I got you. My 3 are.
I'm writing it down. Huh?
Oh, Kelly Wells Brinkley.
Mm-hmm.
Asia Jones. And Rashida Gale.
Rashida Gale. Okay. Say the first person name again. Kelly
Wells Brinkley.
Brinkley. Okay. I'm gonna need your help now reaching out to them, because cold call doesn't work all the time. So we'll figure this out. But I would love to.
On a warm IG intro.
Warm. But no, I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm glad and grateful to have you come on this podcast.
I gotta add somebody. Can I add somebody else?
You can add somebody else.
All right, Cecilia Towns.
Cecilia Towns.
Towns.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Cecilia Towns. All right. I wrote those names down, all 4.
Mm-hmm. So I gave you a variety. Kelly's a track athlete turned new sportscaster for esports. Asia is a WNBA player turned WNBA coach. Rashida Gale owns a marketing company for professional athletes. And Cecilia Towns is the sports esquire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You definitely gave me a variety right there.
Yeah. I try to like, yeah.
Look, I truly appreciate that. And I just think, like, having people like yourself to come on and talk about your journey, talk about your experience, it's helping somebody else. You believe it or not, there's people that are listening. They may be a parent that's have her daughter right there listening and saying, "Hey, Mom, can that be me?" And I'm like, yes, that could be you. You just got to stay dedicated. Stay true to yourself and put in the work.
especially because I am a true proponent that you can really work your way into success. Because when I tell you, I mean, I used to be getting whooped. I'm not. I'm probably the most third place gettingest person who made it really far.
Say that again. You're the third person. Third what?
Third place gettingest.
Oh gosh.
I was definitely not a high school phenom. I mean, I was good at a bunch of events, but third place. A bunch of events, but third. So.
But look, to be able to be on that level, to be on that stage, it still took your hard work, it's a certain mindset, and the willingness to be able to say, I'm going to give it my best every time I step on whatever event that you're going to participate in.
Yes, you can ask any of my neighbors from me growing up. They have seen me doing a stride, a drill, or something in the street. Because I was worried I was gonna get whooped again.
Look, when you look at it now, you took all those whoopings earlier in your career, but you giving out all the lashes now because you doing what you're supposed to be doing right now in your field, and you're owning what you're doing. So I mean, I do a lot of motivational speeches to young people, and I talk about delayed gratification, and that is not being taught for some odd reason. Everybody wants instant gratifications, and
we're not that everybody gets a trophy, people.
Yeah, and so we're living in a time where they just give trophies to everybody, and then kids, when you start talking as a parent harsh to them about delayed gratification, they look at you in the eyes like a deer in headlights, like, what are you talking about? So growing up with delayed gratification and understanding that success takes time. And it's work that you put in, day by day. And it's 10,000 hours that you got to put into your craft for you to start seeing something move and shake.
And the most important part of that is it's not just 10,000 hours of doing it. It's 10,000 hours of doing it and getting better. I think that people spend a lot of time saying, "Oh, if I just go through the motions, then I'm gonna get my time out," but they're not trying to get better. Perfect practice makes perfect performance.
Yeah.
Not just practice.
Gotta write that down. Perfect practice make what? Perfect what?
Perfect practice makes perfect performance, not just practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you just left us with a bang, with a gem just now that I hope people who are listening was able to take that. Look, I just want to say thank you so much. If there's one more advice or one more thing that you would like to say or give to the people that are listening, what would that be? I know you dropped a lot tonight, but if you had one more in you, what would that be? I put you on the spot.
Hey man, wash your hands, stay away from people, stop going to those parties, and hopefully we can get over this pandemic soon. That's my real advice. Let's be responsible for each other.
Yes.
A mask is not for others. It's not for yourself. It's a courtesy to others.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, with that being said, I just want to say thank you again for being on episode 19, Life After Sports podcast with the host, Kevin Johnson. And I really appreciate you taking the time to give us a lot of gems tonight. And for our viewers and our listeners, I hope you were able to take some great advice. And please, if you have any questions or you're trying to reach out or you would like to see this episode again, you can go on our website. It's www.laspodcast.com. And you could be able to watch all the film, all the on our YouTube channel and also on Apple Podcasts. So I look forward to talking with you again, LaVonne. I appreciate you coming on here and giving us some great advice and giving us some great information tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Please go and eat.
I'm going right now. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Have a good night.